aka the Duchess of Justice, and with me I have.
Attorney Augustus Corbett, aka the Minister of Justice.
We are the Defiant Lawyers. We offer legal analysis of trending politics, policies, personalities, and pop culture to empower you to defy an unjust legal system. Before we get into the Defiant Lawyers live stream today, why don't you please hit that subscribe button if you are watching this on our YouTube channel, like this video if you are watching this via Facebook, and share this video so that your family and friends can become legal rebels as well. Before we get into today's topic, how are you doing today, Dad?
I am doing fine, Chloe. I hope that you are.
I am. It's been a busy day of lawyering, but I am glad to get on this live stream and educate and speak with our rebels. With that, can you introduce today's topics?
Well, we got several topics that we're going to talk about, but before I do, let me just make sure that we are being seen and heard. I haven't gotten a notification yet, but I believe
I hope you are.
Yeah, but I see the wrong title.
Mm.
Wow. Sorry about that. Yep, wrong title. So I'm having to change that right quick.
Well, this is all live, guys. This is live online television as it is. And I'm going to look down really quickly so I can share it to my Facebook audience because we want as many people as possible to get this information that we're about to share.
All right, so I just updated the title.
Good.
So we're ready.
Welcome, everyone.
All right, very good. So we're ready to go.
We are.
So you
what are
asked,
we talking about today?
So a couple of things, Chloe, and we're going to try and do it in 20, 30 minutes, but it's a lot. So I can't get long-winded on anything, basically.
And we're lawyers, so you know we like to talk, but we're going to try to keep it short and sweet for everybody.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So, but let me just quickly say, first of all, thank you for being here tonight.
It's a pleasure. It is a pleasure to have this conversation and to have this platform with you. And it's an honor as well.
No, I am the one who is honored to have my daughter here with me tonight. So, all right. So, enough of the pleasantries. Let's get into the law.
Yes.
All right. So, first of all, Alec Baldwin. We did a video on Alec Baldwin's situation. You can find it on YouTube. But we did just want to update a little bit. A lot of facts have come out since we did that video. And there's just one or two things I want to say very quickly. They are, one, first and foremost, I'm an old country boy. Okay, I'm from the country. I grew up around guns. And there are just some basic fundamental rules about guns that you learn growing up where I came from. And probably the most important rule is you assume that all guns are loaded. You just make that basic assumption. All guns are loaded, which means you don't point it at anyone. Even if you think that it's not loaded, you just don't do that because you could be wrong. And if you're wrong, it could be deadly. Now, it's being reported that an assistant director there handed him the gun and sort of assured him that the gun was empty and that it was not, there were no bullets in it. And the news agents, the news companies are reporting that he, basically pointed the gun and fired it, and it hit and killed someone and injured someone else. Well, I don't know if all that's true. We don't know. This is all alleged. But again, I want to drive home the point. Always assume that guns are loaded. Just make that assumption. Therefore, don't point it at anyone unless you intend to use it, and don't put your finger on the trigger, assuming that it is not loaded. Those are just basic, fundamental gun laws that you learn, as I did growing up around a bunch of guns all the time.
And you taught us that as well.
That's
We
right.
grew up in a home, my brother and I, where there were several guns in the house. And from an early age, you taught us proper gun safety, how to handle a gun, to assume that the gun is loaded, but to not to be scared of the gun either.
That's right.
So whoever was responsible for gun safety on that set, and then Alec Baldwin himself, he should have been made aware, and he should have known that when he's handling a gun, and let me correct, in our previous video, we had mentioned that the gun that he used was just merely a prop gun. It's our understanding now, and it's being reported now via news reports and a search warrant, that it was an actual gun that was used on the set. So I agree with you that whenever you put your hands on a firearm, you must assume that that firearm is loaded and ready to go. It is essential. It could save your life or someone else's life as well.
That's right. So there are some other things that have come out as well, one of which is chain of custody, which means, from what I'm understanding, when they are making these movies, there's one person who has the responsibility of keeping custody of those types of things, guns and so forth, those dangerous types of things. And from what's being reported, the gun ended up in the hands of a person, i.e. the assistant director, who was not the person who was supposed to be handling the gun. So there is some chain of custody issues as well. And so, as we said in our very first video, which again, you can watch on YouTube and get more information, we're not going to spend much time on this. The assistant director was not the person who was supposed to have been handling the gun in the first place. So as we said in our first video, there are probably going to be multiple defendants, multiple people getting sued, not just Alec Baldwin, but, that assistant director, the employers, the studio that is, filming, who was filming the picture, the production company. I don't know all the entities involved in making a movie, but there will be multiple defendants here, no question.
I agree. And on the criminal front, in our last video that we put on YouTube, you had mentioned that you didn't think that any charges would come, and if so, they may be less serious charges. I don't know if I quite agree with that now, based on some of the reports that are coming out, based on what the district attorney has said. Now, the district attorney has said that their office is doing a preliminary investigation, so they are very, very at the very beginning of their investigation. But we have to keep in mind two things when it comes to prosecutors and district attorneys. One, they're elected positions, so they are beholden to the constituents in their county. And two, what the victim says weighs heavily on whether or not a prosecutor or the district attorney decides to prosecute a person. So this woman's family, her husband, other family members, their opinion on what happened and their view on it will weigh heavily on whether or not the district attorney decides to prosecute Alec Baldwin for any criminal charges, as well as what the district attorney's constituents in that county is saying too. So we need to keep kind of abreast of if the deceased woman's husband makes any statements, kind of what tone they're taking, what tone the family is taking, as well as whether any local people to that county come out as well, because that could weigh heavily on whether or not the district attorney decides to pursue charges against Alec.
Well, I did say, and I still stand by the fact that I don't think that they would file charges against Alec in this case or anyone else. But after I made that statement and started seeing some of the things that were coming out, I wanted to back up somewhat on that because, the negligence and even recklessness just increased as I heard more and more of the alleged facts. But I still think that without more, based on all that we've heard, I think I'm gonna still stand with I doubt that this ends up with any criminal charges. You made some very good points about how politics and certainly the feelings of the decedent's husband, all of those things the prosecutors will take in consideration. But I guess, until I hear more, I guess we'll just have to disagree on this one.
Yeah, well, that's what we're there for as attorneys. Um, I tend to agree with you. I'm just a little bit skeptical. I think if there's a lot of public pressure for Alec Baldwin to be charged, that the district attorney, being an elected official, might decide to press charges. So I'm going to keep up with this story. And in our community tab on our YouTube page and on our status updates on our Facebook page, we will continue to keep all of our Rebel community updated with our legal analysis regarding Alec Baldwin's situation too.
The political part of this, we do know that Alec Baldwin made a bunch of Saturday night appearances mocking Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are some Trump loyalists who are in the decision making here, he really may end up facing some charges.
Yeah.
If it's those kinds of folks who are making the decision. But anyway, let's move on and talk about Biden's vaccine mandate. Okay, and let me just say some things about that. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because I want to get to something else. But I have been asked several times, do I believe those mandates are legal? And with the law, a lot of it depends. His vaccine mandate as it relates to federal employees, federal contract workers or federal contractors, or
Military.
Military, healthcare workers, anyone who's getting money from the federal government, basically. Certainly anyone who works for the federal government, but even people who get funding from the federal government could also be would have to comply with this mandate. Now, it's going to be challenged, and it's already being challenged in court. But I think that courts will likely uphold what he's doing with the mandate. On the other hand, he also, though, applied the mandate, I believe, through an executive order. I think it was an executive order to private employers that had over 100 employees, and he's using the Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration, OSHA, to enforce that particular part of the mandate. And I've had some dealings with OSHA in my practice before we hooked up. And I don't know, the more conservative the judges and courts are, the more they dislike OSHA. I think a lot of them feel like OSHA tends to overreach. I don't feel that way because the couple of cases that I had involving OSHA, workplace injuries, I was very grateful for OSHA stepping in and forcing the company to take safety measures to protect their employees. In many cases, the employees are minorities, they're Black, they're Hispanic, and if the companies are not forced to spend money to make the workplace safe, they won't do it. And that's what OSHA does. But again, those judges on the conservative side of the political aisle tend to not like OSHA regulations as much.
Yeah. In my research, I saw that as well. There have been several federal cases that have been litigated, from what I can see, that have involved OSHA, and a lot of conservative judges tended to have sided against the federal government in that respect. I want to ask you a question and see if you can explain this for our audience as well. What a lot of people don't understand is that the federal government has a lot of power to regulate commerce in our country, especially when the commerce is between states. So, can you explain to our rebel audience how the government's ability under the U.S. Constitution to regulate commerce has allowed Biden to put in place these vaccine mandates?
Well, it's a good point, and especially a great point for us African Americans. And what you're making reference to is the Interstate Commerce Clause, which gives Congress, which gives the federal government the authority to enact laws that regulate commerce, as you said, between states. Okay. Our Constitution is written in such a way that it tries to limit federal power and federal overreach, and it preserves all the, if powers are not enumerated in the U.S. Constitution, those powers are reserved for the states. We commonly call that states' rights. And so even back during the 60s, when they were trying to stop the segregation of hotels and restaurants and all that, the Southerners argued that Congress didn't have authority to do that. But Congress found the authority in the Interstate Commerce Clause, because those hotels and restaurants and pools and all these private employees and entities, they were benefiting from interstate commerce. They were doing business. They had trucks coming and delivering their goods. They were using trucks that were on the highways, taking their goods to different places. And so Congress said, you're involved in interstate commerce, so therefore we can use the Interstate Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution to regulate your business. So you must stop segregating or refusing to serve African Americans. So that's one way the Interstate Commerce Clause has been used by Congress and by the U.S. President. And so with that same rationale, Joe Biden is able to, and this Congress are also able to regulate anything affecting interstate commerce.
Yeah, because these vaccines are made by various private companies, and they use roads between states to distribute the vaccine, other interstate commerce and travels to get the vaccine throughout the United States. So that's one of the things that Biden has argued, his administration, that because they are taking advantage of the commerce, the states, the interstate highways and travel between the states, that they then have the power to mandate these vaccines. A lot of people are not happy about it. And we know in America, a lot of people are not happy about a lot of things, depending on which side you're on. So I was even contacted by a military member who asked whether or not this member had any legal rights to try to go against the vaccine, because this member was being, and I'm saying member because I don't want to give their gender, but they were being, it was probably going to be mandated that they take the vaccine. So this is even affecting our service members, as well as just lay people throughout the United States as well. So it's a big pressing issue that a lot of people have questions about.
And I've lived with vaccine mandates all my life. Okay. I remember in elementary school, I remember taking those shots. I still remember taking those painful shots. We had to take them in order to go to school. I remember when we moved here and had to enroll you and Caleb in school, we had to get y'all shot records updated because of a mandate. And there are all kinds of federal mandates that control our lives. So, I understand some folks are, against mandates of that sort, but in the interest of public health, in the interest of protecting other people, I don't have a problem with it. Now, I know the vaccines are, controversial. In fact, speaking of one, Kyrie Irving, a professional basketball player who has taken a stand against getting vaccinated, despite the fact that he is losing some money, still making a whole bunch of money, but is losing some money because he won't get vaccinated. And I think this is a great segue into our next topic.
Mm-hmm.
And again, which is Kyrie and some of the vaccine misinformation that is out there right now. So Kyrie took the stand that he took. And now some celebrities are coming to his defense. And I want to play a video of one such person who I think just completely botched the whole issue. But I want to play that video right now, and then we'll talk about it on the other side.
Okay.
Kyrie, what's up? I know you're going through a lot. We had a chance to hang out in 2016 when you represented America, when you represented the red, white, and blue. You only want to be treated fair. I was going to post something on one of my social media pages, but I decided to do it the old school way and read it out to you because you're a great person, great father, great athlete, and you believe what you believe. America is the land of the free. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and supposedly freedom to choose. Never be controlled by money. I respect you for having some integrity and being your own man. A free mind makes its own choices. An enslaved mind follows the crowd. Stand for something or fall for anything. One man can lead a revolution to stand up and fight for what's right. One choice, one word, one action can change the world. It's crazy how people hate you for being a leader. I hope your actions encourage many others to stand up and say enough is enough. Respect to you, Kyrie, and power to the people.
That is stupid. I'm going to be just blank and frank and blunt about this. That is a stupid, uninformed, idiotic, asinine statement coming from Floyd Mayweather.
Is that surprising?
I guess not. I guess you don't have to have a lot of intelligence to be a millionaire. Okay? But that not only is stupid and idiotic, it is dangerous. And for him to try to associate that sort of misinformation with the Black struggle, with standing up for the people and all of that, when Black folks are dying disproportionately from the pandemic. Black folks are some of the less vaccinated people in the country and are paying the price for that. It's almost every day I'm reading about African Americans who are dying needlessly from the pandemic because they are unvaccinated. And yet this guy is going to try to connect not getting vaccinated with the struggle for freedom and liberation. That's stupid. Now, to take it even, hold on, let me just show one other thing. I'm sorry.
Let it out. Let's
I'm
go.
sorry.
Let go.
This is just crazy to me. This is crazy. All right. Now, have you ever heard of two women by the name of Diamond and Silk?
I definitely have.
All right. So here's what they tweeted. So now, if you get vaccinated, you're not a masculine man. So masculinity, according to Diamond and Silk, is what is leading people to get, or lack thereof, is what is leading people to get vaccinated or not. Oh my God. Oh my God. It is hard to express the stupidity in the misinformation that these people are putting out here. And now Diamond and Silk, we know that they are MAGA. Okay, they're MAGA. They're part of Trump's Make America Great Again. So we don't expect a lot from them. But some of these other people who on one hand talk about being for the people, but then on the other hand, here they are standing shoulder to shoulder with MAGA on this issue. And again, people are being influenced. African Americans are being influenced by this foolishness. And many of them are paying the price. Okay?
Well, it's the reason why COVID-19 has been a pandemic within a pandemic for the Black community. We've had a bunch of pandemics. If you want to talk about health, high blood pressure, diabetes, high rates of cancer, Black men, and I'm going to call y'all out a little too, Daddy, a lot of Black men not going to the doctor, not getting health checks. It all falls into that mindset that
Ouch.
Let's just keep it 100. That Floyd Mayweather is talking about. And so that's why we have been the ones who have disproportionately died from COVID-19, the ones who have been sick from COVID-19, the ones who have been disproportionately exposed to COVID-19, because a lot of Black people are in the health industry and service industries where we interact with COVID positive patients. And that's why we haven't been exposed at the high number of other people to the monoclonal antibodies and these other treatments that could really save a bunch of people's lives.
Hold on. Before you get into that, let's set that up some. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's set that up.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be set up properly. All right? And that is this. We recently had our own personal struggle with COVID-19 in our immediate family, right? So why don't you talk to us about that?
Yeah. That family member was me. I was diagnosed with COVID-19 on October 10th, I believe. And how I knew I potentially had COVID is that I lost my sense of smell. And at first, for me at least, I didn't realize I had lost my sense of smell. But I love candles. And one Sunday, I was lighting a candle and I noticed I couldn't smell it. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, what's going on? But after being in this pandemic for a year and a half, unfortunately, I knew that one of the leading signs of having COVID-19, especially for the old variant, was a loss of sense of smell. So I immediately went to go get tested, and I took a PCR test, but that took a couple days. So I wanted to just take a rapid test just to know whether or not I had it. So I took the rapid test, and that actually came back negative. So I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense, because I've lost my sense of smell. I kind of lost my sense of taste. What's going on? But I finally got the PCR test that I took. It was positive. So I knew that I had COVID-19. I will say this, though. I am fully vaccinated with the Johnson & Johnson.
Well, hold on. Before this was really something. So we need to take this in steps. Okay. There are layers here. Okay. Because you tested positive for COVID-19, but you weren't the only one impacted by that news. Your mom and I were floored. and especially me. It was when you told me that, I'll be honest with you, I almost panicked. Okay. And your mom, said, hey, come on, we got to walk in what we preach. And she was right. So I took a deep breath and just put on my game face. But at the same time, while I'm walking in faith that God would see you through this, at the same time, I became very insistent on some things being done. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk about that now. I just want to set that up because you got that news, but man, it really, 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 for your parents, it was something. That was something.
Yeah. I can only imagine, as my parents, how you all felt. Kind of, I guess, being on the sidelines as I was dealing with it. But to your point about what you insisted on, and I'm glad that you insisted on it, I looked into the monoclonal antibody treatment. And I'm going to be honest, I really didn't know what it was. I thought it was something that, I'm I'm laughing because I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I thought it was something related to Trump and like the hydroquinone or something. So I really didn't know anything about it. But after doing my research, I saw that a lot of health providers have highly recommended it, that it has helped save a lot of people, and it has fought off COVID-19 at such high numbers. So after doing the research,
can we say this, though? You were about to say it before I interrupted you, and that is, can you tell us what your vaccine status was?
Yes, I had the Johnson & Johnson back in March. And that was at a point where you couldn't decide which vaccine you were going to get. So I got it done at this huge area in the DFW area, and you waited in line for hours and hours and hours, and you basically just got what they had, or else you would have to get back in line or come back another day. So I got the Johnson & Johnson, and it worked for several months because I didn't test positive for COVID until October. But so yes, I was fully vaccinated.
So fully vaccinated. So this is what they call this was a breakthrough case, right?
Yes, it was a breakthrough case.
It was a breakthrough case. All right. So let's go back to your experience with the monoclonal antibody. So let me set this up again. You're fully vaccinated. It had been 7 months by then, mm-hmm. And we know now that the Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and the Moderna vaccines began to wane over time. Mm-hmm. And recent information, even from Johnson & Johnson, suggests that vaccine begins waning after 2 months. Okay? They didn't tell us that back then. They were out there saying, the officials were out there saying Johnson & Johnson is just as effective as all the rest. Well, now it's come out that it starts waning 2 months, whereas the other two can last at least 6 to 8 months, their effectiveness. And let me say this, though. I'm not a medical expert, but my understanding is it wanes with respect to the infection, but keeping somebody out of the hospital or from dying, it still stays pretty effective at that. Mm-hmm. Okay? So I want to be clear about that. It wanes in terms of the infection, all three of them, but they still keep a high efficacy with keeping folks from getting seriously sick or from hospitalization or dying. So now, what was your experience with the monoclonal antibody? And by the way, you said as I was insisting on it, you and your mother, quite frankly, were thinking that this was associated with Trump and so on. And I knew it wasn't and wouldn't have recommended anything that the Trump crowd was doing, with the hydroxychloroquine and that other thing that they use on horses and all that. I nope, wasn't going down that route. But I had done my research and knew that the monoclonal antibodies were pretty effective. In fact, it may have saved his life. He got that treatment and he got over COVID pretty quickly. And others. So, and then I saw some outlets that were talking about the monoclonal antibody, and they were liberal outlets, and the CDC and the FDA had issued an emergency authorization use for the monoclonal antibody. So I said they wouldn't have done that if it was some MAGA Trump people stuff. It must be pretty good. And so, yes, I insisted that you get it. So go ahead.
Yeah. So my experience with it, it's a dichotomy. Getting the actual treatment was great. The nurses and the health providers, when I actually got it, were excellent, very caring. What it is they give you an IV and you sit there.
But you're leaving out what happened the first time.
Yeah, I was going to get into that. Because like I said, it's a dichotomy. I just wanted to emphasize actually getting that. That was great. And when I actually got it, it was not a bad experience at all. But to actually get it, I did suffer what I believe was racial medical discrimination. I first went to a clinic up in a upscale suburb of Dallas. And when I went there, I was denied. They said, without getting into too many details, they said that for some reason they could not give me the antibodies. To me, it was a reason that did not make any sense. Then when my parents and myself advocated for ourselves, they just completely said that I can't even come back and reschedule once the issue got fixed. So
well, let me jump in there because you're being nice. You call it advocating, and that's what I was doing. And we're talking about me. I'm the one who spoke with them. I not only was advocating, I had to really fight these people to try and get you this treatment. They refuse to give you this treatment on what we believe was a bogus reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to the doctor for about 30 minutes and was explaining to her that as African Americans, she is from a foreign country, but as African Americans, we have really dealt with this pandemic as well as Hispanics in a disproportionate way. And my attitude was, you are not going to cause my daughter to not get a treatment that the government is paying for, that she would potentially benefit from, possibly because we're up here in this upscale area. And by the way, let's be specific about that. You only went up there. We don't live up there. We live in another suburb of Dallas, but you only went up there because in this area there were only 2 facilities, and the doctor who referred you said, "Hey, that's the one that we deal with." Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you would have went to the one in Fort. We didn't care where you got it from. In other words.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we had to, and I want to stress that, Chloe, because some of the people who are listening to this may say, hey, I know someone who could benefit from that monoclonal antibody. Well, first we want you to know it's not a mega thing. It's not a Trump thing. This is FDA approved. This is also approved by the NIH, and it does save people's lives, but few folks know about it. And I'm telling you that if you're African American, you may need to fight to get it, though. You may need to fight for your loved one to get this.
Yeah.
All right? All right, go ahead.
And I know I want to address the unanswered thoughts of some viewers or people who watch this live stream. Well, how do you know it was race that you didn't get it? Y'all always play the race
no,
card.
I didn't say that. I didn't say it was race.
Oh, I said it was race. I said I think it was racial discrimination.
Oh, okay.
Because I was the only Black female in the clinic. Everyone else were older and were white. The reason that they gave me for why they denied me did not make sense. And when I went to the other facility to get it, it was the same reason, but they still gave me the monoclonal antibodies. And then when you were explaining to the doctor how Black people, how we have to advocate for ourselves and fight for ourselves in the medical community, she automatically went, well, you're calling me racist.
That's right.
So in my mind, that tells me what you're already thinking, or that was already in your mind when you were treating me. And then to completely deny me, knowing that these antibodies could potentially save my life, that tells me that based on who I was surrounded by, the way the doctor interacted with me, and the reason why they denied me treatment, that this was because of my race and probably my age as well. And so I just know people are thinking that because whenever you bring up race or say that you feel like you were treated differently because of your race, there's going to be a certain segment of people who think, okay, this person is always bringing up the race card, or everything is not about race. In the medical community, a lot of times it is, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And in fact, I remember this African-American doctor, female doctor in the Chicago area, who died from COVID. And she did a Facebook Live video from her hospital bed. And she basically said they were denying her treatment, the type of treatment that could save her life. And she said it was because she was African-American. She died a few days later. This was a physician, a Black female physician, a doctor, a medical doctor. And so if her own colleagues, she believed, discriminated against her to the point that it cost her life potentially, then, the rest of us don't stand a chance. But I was determined to fight for you.
Yeah.
I was determined to fight for you.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's all these stats that come out. We're kind of getting a little long, but there's a lot of stats that come out that there are these, inherent biases in a lot of doctors in the medical community. That Black people have a higher pain tolerance. That Black women, they don't tend to believe us when we say we're in pain. I experienced that as well because around this time I had to go to the ER because of a toothache, and I literally sat in that ER for about 10 hours.
Wait a minute. Why were you in the ER over a toothache? Now, somebody may say, well, hold on. You just go to the dentist for a toothache. How do you end up in the ER?
It's a long story, but I went to the dentist to get a teeth extraction, to get surgery.
I mean, yeah, your wisdom tooth, right?
Yeah, my wisdom tooth.
I mean, you had to basically get oral surgery.
Yes.
And that's how you ended up in the ER.
Yes. But while I was in there, I felt like my pain was not taken as seriously. My knees were not taken as seriously. And it wasn't until the next morning when we were still there at 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And, I had to say, I had to tell them I'm a lawyer and I understand how these laws work. So I need to get treatment and I need to get it now. So that finally changed things. So my point is, as African Americans and minorities, we do have to fight for ourselves when it comes to our health, when it comes to getting treatment that we need. And we just want to make sure that everyone is aware of this treatment. And it's important to know that if you get diagnosed with COVID-19, you have to get this treatment very soon after you get diagnosed.
That's right.
Because it's not effective after a certain number of days.
That's right.
So look into it almost immediately after you're COVID-19 positive.
Excellent point. The sooner the better. And by God's grace, we were able to get you, because the very same day you went to another facility, shout out to Baylor Hospital.
Yes.
Who were very, very gracious, and they gave you the monoclonal antibody without any issue whatsoever. The
None.
same day.
Same day. And the nurses, they wanted me to they said, tell your friends and family, look into and get this treatment. It can save lives. They begged me and pleaded with me to do that.
Please say that again, Chloe.
The nurses, they literally begged me to tell my family and friends about this treatment. And they said that it could save lives. And they really want people to get this treatment and for their lives to be saved.
That's why we're doing this video. That is the exact reason why we're doing this video. So, did you experience severe infection, pneumonia, and all that?
By the grace of God, I didn't. By the grace of God and the vaccine and the antibodies, all three of those combined, I did not experience serious infection. I didn't have any respiratory issues, no coughing. It was really just my loss of smell. So I think the combination of these antibodies, being vaccinated, and of course Christ, that is why I didn't experience what unfortunately a lot of people experience when they become COVID-19 positive.
Amen. Yes, we completely we talked that through. Faith in God, number one, the vaccination, number two, and the monoclonal antibody, number three.
Yes.
Wow, it's emotional talking about it. That was a trying 2 or 3 weeks for us. And so you went, within a week? And within a week you had tested negative? Am I saying, is that right?
Yeah. I think on the 5th or 6th day, I had tested negative. And one of the nurses had explained, she thinks that these antibodies will really kick COVID-19 out. And it did. It did. And the process, all it is the IV, and they're shooting the antibodies in you. It takes about 20 to 30 minutes, and then they watch you for about an hour after, and then you're free to go. And I didn't have any side effects, symptoms, or anything.
Now, let me ask you one last question before we end this, and this is a very purposeful question. Do you intend to get the booster vaccination?
Yes, I am.
The booster shot?
Yes. As soon as I can. I have to wait 30 days after getting the antibody treatment. That's what my nurse recommended to me. I will be getting the booster shot. I think it just makes sense. I think all the extra protection I can get makes sense. And I want to have as much protection as I can against this virus.
So you tested negative when? What date?
I think the 15th. October
Okay.
15th.
All right. So, and you quarantined for those 10 days and all that, right?
Quarantine for the 10 days. Quarantine, make sure I didn't infect anyone else. So it was an experience. I mean, even just quarantining, just mentally, can be challenging. Even if your symptoms are not that bad, but the mental toll that it takes to quarantine can be a lot as well. And just this pandemic in general.
And by God's grace, you didn't infect Caleb?
I did not.
Amen.
Nope.
Now, I want to just end with this point. This is why I asked you that question. There's misinformation out there about a person being able to that a person cannot get reinfected once they've been infected with COVID. We know that's not true. We know of examples of people who were positive for COVID and then were reinfected. And one person who comes to mind is, I don't know if you're familiar with Sophia Nelson. She's actually a Republican African-American woman. And she was infected with COVID twice. Okay. And so here's what you do have natural immunity now, but the experts say that can begin to wane, and the monoclonal antibodies, they wane too over time. So that's the reason why you've decided to get the booster shot when you can, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, because I don't want to be reinfected and potentially have worse symptoms than what I had when I got infected the first time. And I really just want to offer words of encouragement to everyone, because this pandemic has been a challenge for me personally. And I'm sure it has been for a lot of people watching us, not being able to spend as much time with family and friends, having to socially distance. I was 29, I think, when the pandemic started. I'm 31 now. These are, I kind of feel like my golden years in my 20s and 30s, and I'm having to stay in the house mostly. But we will get through this, and I just want to encourage everyone, as we continue as a nation in the world, fight COVID-19.
So this is the reason why I reacted so strongly to the foolishness and the misinformation that's coming from people like Floyd Mayweather, Diamond and Silk, and many, many, many others. My family dealt with this. And by the grace of God and the vaccine and the monoclonal antibody, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And we're forever grateful to the Lord for that.
Yes.
So we encourage everyone to get vaccinated. Get vaccinated, folks, and get the booster shot. Hundreds of millions of people have been vaccinated around the world, hundreds of millions. And there have been very, very few serious side effects. And the vaccines are working in terms of keeping people out of the hospital from serious infection and death. There are always some small exceptions. There are breakthrough cases, but very few in comparison. And that's what I look at. I have a degree in chemistry. I did research chemistry. I look at the data and the facts. The facts don't supersede my faith, but when it's not a faith fight that we're talking about, I'm going to look to the data. That's why God gave me common sense to look at the data. And the data just says that the vaccine is not dangerous per se, and it is very helpful. And we have 100 years of vaccinations for all kinds of things to prove that. So I strongly suggest that you get vaccinated. God forbid if you get infected, try very early to get to a facility and get that monoclonal antibody. As soon as you get the positive result, schedule an appointment. It's free. The government will pay for it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that's what we wanted to share tonight. Chloe, thank you for sharing your story. We are private people, and that's private information, but we felt we needed to set aside our privacy and discomfort and talking about our family medical issue to try and warn people and give people information and try to fight some of this misinformation. So
yeah, do your research. Do your research. Look into it. Please get vaccinated.
And when you do your research, do it with credible sources, not
Right.
not YouTube videos from Alex Jones and
Right.
all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let's distinguish that. Look at some credible, legit sources now.
Amen.
Don't get into the dark web to get your information.
That's
But please do credible research. Get vaccinated if you can. Get this monoclonal antibody treatment if you qualify and test positive, and please spread the word as well so we can get this out there.
All right. Thank you again. And that is going to conclude this live. Y'all be blessed.
Don't forget to comment, to like, subscribe. We will be coming back with a lot of videos, a lot of interesting legal analysis on trending politics, policy, personalities, and pop culture. So let's get it.
Amen. That said, God bless y'all. Bye-bye.